a deadly clash for control over wealth and territory between Native Americans and colonial settlers in the dawn of New England's colonial era. When English colonists arrived in the Connecticut River Valley in the 1620s and 30s, they quickly found themselves at odds with the region's dominant Native American tribe, the Pequots. And after years of mounting tensions, the conflict boiled over into open warfare, resulting in one of the most horrific episodes in early colonial history. Before the English arrived, the Pequot alongside the Dutch had dominated the fur and wampum trade in the Connecticut River Valley. But as more and more English colonists arrived, local tribes who had previously allied with the Pequot against the Dutch now switched sides, allying with the English instead. And this created an increasingly hostile environment for the Pequot, who were also pesky in the middle of a decades-long conflict with their rivals, the Narragansett and the Mohegan. In 1634, English trader John Stone was murdered by a group of Pequot men, supposedly in retaliation for an insult to a Pequot woman. And then 2 years later, in 1636, another trader, John Oldham, was killed while visiting a trading post near the mouth of the Thames River. And both of these incidents, along with ongoing raids and clashes along the frontier, provided the English with the justification they needed to take military action against the Pequot. Tensions escalated further in 1637 when a group of Pequot men attacked the English settlement of Wethersfield, killing 9 settlers and capturing 5 hostages. And so in May of that year, English colonists from the Massachusetts Bay, Plymouth, and Saybrook colonies, along with their native allies from the Narragansett and Mohegan nations, assembled a military force of around 900 men and marched on the Pequot village. Pequot chief Sassacus had anticipated an attack and had his people prepared to defend themselves. The village was protected by a palisade fort, which the English would have to storm in order to capture it. But rather than giving the defenders a chance to prepare for battle, the English launched a surprise dawn attack, catching the Pequots completely off guard. As the English and their native allies closed in on the village, the battle began. Guns and arrows flew back and forth as the invaders battled their way through the Pequot's outer defenses and into the village itself. The attackers set the village ablaze, blocked the exits with their own forces, and then fought to kill every man, woman, and child who tried to flee. After the fort had burned throughout the day, the English and their allies pursued fleeing groups of Pequot men, women, and children through the forest, killing many more before they finally reached the river. There they rounded up what was left of the Pequot and forced them to march with them to Wethersfield, where they were held as prisoners of war. In total, somewhere between 400 and 700 Pequot died in the massacre, most of them women and children, many burned to death inside the palisade fort, or while trying to escape the village in boats on the Mystic River, with their greatest military victory secured. The English and their native allies continued to pursue and attack any remaining groups of Pequot throughout the summer of 1637. And by the following spring, the war was effectively over. In 1638, the surviving Pequot leaders met with representatives from the colonies at a peace conference in Hartford, where they agreed to a treaty that would effectively end their nation as a political entity. The terms of the treaty forbade the Pequot from identifying themselves as Pequot, from returning to their ancestral lands, or even from speaking the Pequot language. Any survivors who had not already been killed or enslaved were absorbed into other tribes, and the name and memory of the Pequot were effectively erased from the region. And in the decades that followed, the land that had once been home to one of New England's most powerful Native American nations became the property of the colonists who had destroyed it. Heeded a tragic and violent chapter in the early history of New England, a reminder of the devastating consequences of colonialism and the systematic erasure of indigenous peoples from their homelands. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what other historical events or topics you'd like to see covered in future videos. Thanks for watching.